Creating a good rig for your characters can be really difficult, and making one that's actually good for animation can be even worse. So in today's video, I'm going to take you through my exact workflow for creating rigs inside of Blender for my low poly characters. Let's go. Alright, in this tutorial, I'm going to be using my low poly Cinti base mesh. If you want to grab it, it'll be linked down below. And if you want to follow along, you'll be able to see anything I press down in the bottom left over here. So let's just hop straight in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to front view, just so we can kind of keep it straight when we are placing our bones. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go press Shift and S and go cursor to world origin. That will go place my cursor in the center. If you can't see it, you might have to go turn on your 3D cursor in your viewport overlays. Now we can create our rig. So I'm going to go click armature, single bone, and you see it places a bone right here in the center. Okay, to actually start editing this, we can press tab to go to edit mode for this rig. We can push it up basically to where we want to start the pelvis. And to make our life easier, I'm actually going to go to the object properties over here, scroll down and go to viewport display and then turn on in front. And that will allow us to see this rig in front of our mesh, which is going to be quite useful. Okay, so I'm going to go zoom in and then this is going to be the start of the pelvis. So I'm going to go press E to extrude and I'm going to press Z to lock it to only up and down. Now, when I'm placing these, I'm going to kind of leave it. So maybe something like this for the actual pelvis area. Maybe push this one down. And then I'm going to place these when they hit on a similar line to each section. Usually I'll use about 3 bones. So you'll see here, I can go extrude one up again, Z, E. So it's E to extrude, Z for the Z axis. And we can go again. So select the top, E, Z, bring it up to roughly where the neck is going to be. Okay, and this also relies similar kind of to if you have your kind of your rib cage is going to be here. It's going to be controlled by this top bone. Then you're going to have your pelvis, which is here, which is going to be controlled by this bottom bone, and his middle is going to be everything in between. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is press E again and extrude up to kind of where the end of the neck would be, and then I can grab it again and extrude Z to the top of the head. There we go. So now we've created the base chain, as they're called, for the body. Now, what we need to do is go into side view, and you can see that these aren't moving in any sort of way compared to the rest of the character. The first thing I'm going to do is grab this bottom bone and push it forward until I get into the rough area I want. I'm going to keep this vertical because it makes life a lot easier when animating if you keep the pelvis straight vertical, because then if you're moving it up and down, it's only going to be one axis. But if you rotate it, then it's going to be something like this, which means that your up and down is going to be some random axis. Okay. The rest of them don't matter too much. You can kind of just place them wherever you want, just by selecting them and go G and Y. And then for the neck, I'm going to move it back. So G, Y. Same thing for the neck, G, Y. And then I'm going to grab the head and place it as well. Now, let's go back to front view. And to make the life a lot easier when we're placing the rest of the bones, I'm going to go over to my snapping up here and choose volume. Okay, so what volume is going to do is while you're placing it, is going to snap to the center of the actual like mesh, whatever you see. So this only works if you're going to be using just a simple base mesh like this. If your mesh has clothing on top of it with like a solidifier or anything like that, then it's not going to snap correctly to the center. But what you can do is just hide everything other than your base mesh, and then that will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bone right here, go Shift and D to duplicate, and then push it up to where your kind of collarbone would start. So you can grab each side, place it, and if you want the snapping to actually start working, we can click on this little magnet icon, and then it will start placing. And if you want to turn it off, you can actually hold Control and it'll stop snapping. But yeah, so there, we can kind of go place it roughly where it should be, so something like that. And then we can extrude out for the arm. So I'm going to go extrude, go roughly to the center of the arm. Okay, and then I'm going to extrude out to the wrist like this. I usually try to keep my arm as straight as possible because this will help a lot when we do something later called the RK section of creating our rig. Now, don't worry that we haven't done the left side of the body because we are going to do that later once we've named all of our mesh, all of our bones. Okay, so if we go move around here, we can see that this character has basically 2 fingers, or like 1 finger and then the 3 fingers merged together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude out for the hand, and I've gone to another view just so that now it is placing in the middle of the hand like that. And then from here we can take this, and then I'm going to select this hand and I'm going to Shift D to duplicate, and then we can put it here, and we can take this base, place it there, And the easiest way to do this, we can go place it to the end of the finger and then just select it, right click, or press W. Oh yeah, right click subdivide, and you'll see that gives us two sections. So you can select the middle and then place it on the bend of your finger. Now what we can do is select both of these and just duplicate again, and then we can go position it, just selecting each section of it. So there, go to the middle, and then go to the end. And then just go side view just to make sure that they place roughly correct. So we can maybe move this one down a little bit to get it properly in the center. And there we go. Now, when you're duplicating, you can see these little dotted lines. And if you can't see these, you have to go to the viewport overlays again and turn on the relationship lines. Okay. So what this means is it's actually following currently the forearm, because you see it leads to the forearm over here. So the way you can check this is by going from edit mode to pose mode. You can press Control Tab to do that. So now if I select the hand and rotate, you see nothing following it, but if I select the forearm, you see it is following now correctly. So the way to fix this is to go back to edit mode, and we can select these two bits, and then we can select the hand and go Control P, and you can see make parent, keep offset. Okay. Now we can do the same thing, just select this, Shift D, and I'll usually start out quite low, like here, place it, and then select this bit right here, and then go place it on the joint, and select this bit, and then place it on the end of the finger. Okay, there we go, that looks good. And you see here, now it's actually being parented to the hand. And we also have to go fix the same thing, because this is being currently parented to like the torso area. So I'm going to select the shoulder, select the chest here, and go keep offset. Now we can do a similar thing for the legs. So I'm actually going to hide this root bone for now, just to give us a little bit of more like working view. So I'm going to take this one, duplicate, Shift D, and I'm going to go place it at the top of the leg. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to grab this and then move it all the way to the bottom, making sure that there we go, snap it. And then what we can do now is select it, right click, subdivide. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my snapping off and then just go keeping it like so. Now this is exactly in the center, and I'm just going to push it up very slightly, trying to my best to keep it straight. As I said, this is going to help a lot with the RK. And then what I'm going to do, go side view, and then I'm going to go G, Y, and then just push this forward. So I'll show you exactly why we're doing this later when we set up the RK. Now, one side tangent is you probably want to keep these as straight as possible. So you see, you're currently seeing like the kind of 45 degree. So what we can do is, that's actually the roll of it. So I can actually press Alt and R, that'll clear the roll. But if you want to actually change it, you can open up the side panel with N, go Item, and you see we have this roll over here. So you select them and rotate it, and then you'll see. So now we have them straight. So now that will be a lot better when animating. And we can also check the same thing. So here, we can actually select everything, press Alt R, and then this should help out a little bit. And then some of these are going to need to be rotated. So you can probably rotate these until they are kind of like straight along. So like this. Okay, so there we go. We have the knee in. So now what we're going to do is grab the bottom over here. I'm going to go to the side view, and then I'm just going to extrude out to basically around here for the toe. And something didn't look right. I don't know what extruded. Let's select that again. Go side view, and we can go extrude. And there we go. That worked. Again, so if you've turned your snapping off, you can hold Control, and it'll snap it now. So I'm going to place it there, and then select it, and extrude out to the toe. Let's go around, select, see if that's all good. Yeah, that's good. Okay, and there we go. We've gotten a base rig. Now, a little side tangent. If you're going to be working on a game engine with these, then you don't actually want to be parenting the bones like we have been doing. So the proper way of doing it, and this works a little bit better inside of software like Maya. Okay, this is something I just need to quickly cover before we continue with the video. Basically, in other software like Maya, each bone can kind of change the length of it pretty easily. So if you create a root bone, you can basically just create the bottom and then parent the one above it to it. But this doesn't really work inside of a software like Blender because the bones actually are fixed length. So what you need to do is actually, how I'm doing this kind of works, but it's probably better to actually just parent them instead. And parenting will actually kind of show up the exact same way that it is showing up inside of Blender. This is something I kind of forgot and didn't think about correctly because I've been spending too much time rigging in Maya recently. But instead of deleting any bones that I show in this process, parenting is actually the correct way to do it. So yeah, disregard any things I show weirdly in this video. So what I'm going to do now is going to hide my mesh, and then I'm going to take this here, select this bit, and I'm going to extrude out. And then what we can actually do is change this over to vertex, I think. And then we can actually, once we have vertex snapping on, hold G or press G, hold Control, and you'll snap it across. Then we can go select this one, then select this one, and then we can go Control P and connect it. Okay. And you'll see that basically helps us because now everything is actually properly connected to each other. And if you wanted this to actually follow the pelvis, then you could move that and change it to more of a going from here to here. So again, select this, Control P, and connect it. Okay, and you'll see now that when we rotate this, the legs follow with. Okay, so the reason game engines don't really like it is basically just based off the hierarchy and all of that stuff. But yeah, so similar thing up here, then we can just take this and then this one to here. So we select here, extrude to there, and select this, Control P, connect it. All right, and similar thing over here. So we can take this, extrude to there, take this, extrude to here, take this, extrude to there. Again, holding Control to snap. So then we can select these two, Control P connected, and repeat the process for the other three. Okay, so you want to get all this kind of stuff set up before we actually start naming and mirroring. So now let's start naming, because naming your bones is very important. So I'm going to time lapse through this, but basically I'm going to name all of these with just the normal name. So something like here, it's going to be the root. Then this is going to be the, that's naming the object. So this is the rig. So I actually need to go to the bone, and then you can see here. So this is going to be called root. This is going to be called pelvis. This is going to be called torso. This is going to be called chest. This is going to be called the neck. This one's going to be called the head. It's going to be a little bit difficult, and it's going to be kind of dependent on what sort of game engine and how their rigging system works. But for here, I'm just going to go based off of, like, we're going to call it leg base. This is going to be called upper leg. And then here, I'm going to call this lower leg. And actually, with all of these, what you need to be doing is, if you want these to have, like, be properly mirrored, is have some sort of consistent naming convention. And with that naming convention, also keeping a underscore L or underscore R kind of thing. So you can select all of your bones. So you can actually leave it, because Blender does have a naming convention. So we can go through, then this is going to be called foot, toe. And then if we select all of these, we can go armature, names, and auto name left, right. And you see how if we go through, all of these have a .l prefix or post. I actually don't know, on the end. So we can go and call this like start dot. So you can either give it a .l or just go through and do it later. So yeah, this could be called clavicle, upper arm, lower arm, hand. Honestly, doing it this way is kind of not that great. So, well, it doesn't look that nice. So for now, I'm just going to leave this being parented, and then you can deal with the consequences in the game engine if they pop up. Then it's going to be called finger. I'm just going to call this finger 2 base.l. Actually, we're not doing the thing manually. So then this can be called finger 2 tip, finger 1 base, finger 1 tip. This will be called thumb, base, and thumb. Okay, so that should be all of the bones named. Now, we could go symmetrize it right now. So if we go armature, symmetrize. And actually, before we do that, we need to go through, select all of these, go armature, names, auto name, left, right, and go through, and it should be all named correctly. Then we can select everything and go armature, symmetrize, and you see that works. But before we do that, let's actually get the arcade set up so that when we mirror, the arcade settings go with it. So the way you set up your arcade is by going into the side view, and this is going to be for the leg. So I'm going to select the leg like this, extrude Y, push it out like this, and then over here, I'm going to select this one and go Alt P. Okay, so that's for clearing the parent. So we don't want this to follow the leg. So if I go clear parent, inside of pose mode, you can see if I rotate the leg, or actually if I rotate anything, you see this stays behind. And we want that because this is going to be controlling the leg. Okay, so I'm going to go back to edit mode. So this we can call leg rk.l. Okay, and then the other thing we need is a pole target, which is basically where the knee is going to be pointed. So I'm going to select the knee like this, go extrude Y, push it forward. And then the same thing, we're going to go Alt P, clear parent, because we don't want it to be parented to the leg. Because again, this is controlling the leg. So what I'm going to do is actually push this quite far out, because you don't want the knee to be able to hit this point. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, and this is going to be called leg pole target.l. Okay, and there we go. And for any bones that are going to be doing anything like this, which is not actually moving the mesh, so these are non-deforming bones, what you can do is you actually go through and untick deform on all of those bones. And what that will allow is if you do any sort of automatic weight painting, those will not get exported. And if you're going to be setting it to a game engine, these won't be exported as well. Now, to actually get the setup for an RK, we have to go to pose mode, and then we can select this, like the shin of our character, and go to this tab, which is the bone constraints tab. So we're going to add bone constraint, or we can just go select this, the RK bone, then shift select the bone we want to add the RK to, go shift I, add RK, target selected bone. So there, or you could go here, add constraint, inverse kinematics, and we can go target. So it's going to be rig, and the bone is going to be called the RK. So leg RK.L. Okay. And you see here, if we select this one and start moving it, it is working, but it's moving our character really weirdly. And the reason for that is if you select this, the yellow line is telling us how much of our mesh is being controlled by the RK. So to change this, we actually have to change the chain length over here. So if we change it to 1, so you see the yellow line is now snapped to the knee. So now if we move this, it's just going to be choosing it like this. And if we go change this to 2, then you can see now it's gone up to the top of the leg, which is what we want. Okay. And you see here, now it's working correctly. This is working. And as you see, because we push this forward, now when we move the RK, you see it works correctly, but it can have some issues. So now we need to set up the pole target, and that will fix most of the issues. So pole target, we can go here. So we're going to call the rig, and then we can go look for pole. So leg pole target underscore .l. And you see it rotated the thing. So it kind of always does this for some reason. But for pole angle, I'm just going to change this to -90. And you see now it's facing the right direction. And now when we move this, it makes the whole leg rotate like this. Okay, so now we can go here. And you see, so even if we push it all the way like this, we can't really get this to ever face the other way, other when you go up here, but that's just because this is lower. So you can push this up, and you see here, then you never have any issues. Okay. Now, let's get 2 things set up, and then we will be finished with this rig, and we can actually mirror it, and everything will be good. So the first thing I want to do is go to the foot, because currently you see the foot is rotating all weird. Now I have 2 options to get this to fix. You can go 1, select the bone, go to relations, and turn off inherent rotation. And you see here now, whenever you do it, nothing's going to happen. But the thing with that is, now, if you rotate this RK, nothing's going to happen to it. So what I'm going to do is go back to this, turn inherent rotation back on. And what we're going to do is actually add a constraint. So bone constraint, add constraint, copy rotation. So we're going to go copy rotation, and we're going to set the target to be rig, and we're going to be at the target of the leg RK. Okay, so you see now it's copying the rotation 100%, but we don't want that. We want to have it kind of be like multiplied on top of. It's going to be on an offset. So we're going to change this to offset or after original. So you see like this. So now it's been offset correctly. And you see now, so if you rotate this, it's all working. And you see that is looking a bit weird. So that's not 100% correct. So let's see if this works. You see before original, there we go. And that's working better. Cool. Now, the last thing I want to do, and this is personal preference, but I'm going to actually parent this pole target to the RK. So if I go keep offset, the reason I want to do this is because I want, when I rotate the pole like this, it's also going to rotate the knee. So the foot and the knee are going to line up. This is personally how I do it, but it's up to you if you want to do that. You can test it out. And if we get rid of it, select it, Alt P, and in edit mode, Alt P, clear parent. All right. And then the other thing you could do is select this and parent the RK to the root. So we're going to go in edit mode, Control P, keep offset. And then now if we select the root, everything will follow, but we can still move the leg independently and do, okay, so start issue with the root. I'm actually just going to get rid of it for now. This is something that's more used inside of other engines, but I'm just going to delete it, and that's going to leave it like that. But now you can see we can grab the hip, bring it down, all of that stuff. And I think we actually do need to keep inherent rotation off as well, because you see there, now it is working correctly. Right, so now we can do is go edit mode, go armature, symmetrize, and you'll see here, we now have a fully working rig. And again, if you want to kind of go back to not having these little offsets, you could also delete those. But yeah, so now we have a fully functioning rig inside of Blender. And real quick, if you want to get your character to actually follow, we can select your mesh, then your rig, Control P, not keep offset, go to automatic weights. Now, if you select it, we can start moving it and it is working correctly. You can do that with everything, but now you actually need to learn how to do your weight painting of your character, which is another topic in of itself. All right, I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a lot, and that you are going to now learn how to weight paint your characters. And if you want, you can go check the link down below, which will take you to my low poly carrots course. I do have a in-depth guide on weight painting inside of there. If not, you can go watch this video to the left, which will cover weight painting.